August 30th, 1997. Evening. Balmoral Castle, Scotland. Two boys are playing with their cousins, laughing, running around, having the kind of fun that only kids on summer holiday can have. The phone rings. It's their mother, calling from Paris. Prince William, 15 years old, picks up first. Then Prince Harry, just 12. The conversation is brief, rushed, casual. They want to get back to playing. "Goodbye, see you later. Can I go now?" Those were their last words to Princess Diana, and for the rest of their lives, they would wish they could take them back. This is the story of the phone call that haunts two princes. The conversation they'll regret forever, the moment they didn't know would be their last, and the weight of living with words they can never unsay. Let me take you back to that summer. 1997. William is 15, Harry is 12. Their parents divorced the year before. It's been a difficult time, navigating between two homes, two lives, two versions of what their family used to be. But it's summer now, and summers mean Balmoral, the royal family's sprawling estate in the Scottish Highlands. Tradition, routine, normalcy. Diana isn't there. She hasn't been invited. Since the divorce, the lines have been drawn. Charles gets the boys for part of the summer. Diana gets them for the other part. This is Charles's time. William and Harry are having a good time with their father, their cousins, their grandparents, hunting, fishing, running wild across the estate. For a few weeks, they're just boys, not princes, not the children of the most photographed woman in the world, just kids. Diana, meanwhile, is in Paris. She's with Dodi Fayed, the relationship that has consumed the tabloids all summer. Every yacht trip, every beach walk, every intimate dinner has been photographed, analyzed, debated. The paparazzi follow her everywhere, but she's happy, or at least she seems to be. She's planning her future, thinking about what comes next, and most importantly, she's counting down the days until she sees her boys again. She misses them. She's been away from William and Harry for several weeks, and it's eating at her. Being apart from her sons is the hardest part of the divorce, the custody arrangements, the time she doesn't get with them. She calls them whenever she can, checking in, hearing their voices, making sure they know she's thinking about them. On August 30th, as the sun sets over Paris, Diana picks up the phone. She's at the Ritz Hotel. Dodi is there. Henri Paul, the driver who will be dead in a few hours, is somewhere in the building. The paparazzi are gathering outside, but in this moment, Diana just wants to hear her sons' voices. The phone rings at Balmoral. William and Harry are in the middle of something, playing with their cousins, having fun, being kids. They don't want to stop. They love their mother, of course they do, but they're 15 and 12. They're on holiday. They're busy. The phone call is an interruption. William picks up first. The conversation is casual, light. He tells her about his day. He's just shot his first stag in the Scottish hills. It's a big moment for him, a rite of passage. Diana is happy for him, proud, but she wants to talk more. She wants to connect. She's alone in Paris with Dodi, missing her boys, needing to hear everything about their lives. But William is distracted. His cousins are waiting. He wants to get back to playing. The conversation feels rushed, perfunctory. Harry gets on the phone next. Same thing. Quick, brief. He can't really remember what he says, just the usual stuff. Yes, we're having fun. Yes, we're fine. Yes, see you soon. Love you. Goodbye. Can I go now? Diana lets them go. She understands. They're kids. They're having fun. She doesn't want to be the nagging mother who keeps them on the phone. She'll see them tomorrow. She's flying back to London in the morning. She'll have plenty of time with them then. They can talk about everything. Really connect. Make up for lost time. I love you both. Always remember that. Did she say those words? Some accounts suggest she did. Others aren't sure. William and Harry can't remember exactly. The details have become blurry over time, obscured by trauma and guilt and the desperate wish that they'd paid more attention. But whatever the exact words were, the call ends. Diana hangs up. William and Harry run back to their cousins, and none of them know that in less than 12 hours, everything will change forever. Let's stay with Diana for a moment. She's just hung up the phone. How does she feel? Happy to hear their voices, probably, but maybe a little sad too, a little lonely. She's in Paris with Dodie, yes, but her boys are in Scotland. Her real life, her purpose, her reason for everything is hundreds of miles away. She wants to be with them. She wants to be home. Richard Kay, a royal correspondent and friend of Diana's, speaks to her that night. He says she's in a good place. She's talking about the future, about coming back to London, about seeing William and Harry. Above everything else, that's what she wants. Her boys, her sons, the two people who matter most. She wanted to come back and see her boys. That was Diana's priority, always. In every decision she made, in every interview she gave, in every battle she fought with the palace, William and Harry were the reason. She was fighting to be their mother, to give them a different kind of upbringing, to show them the real world outside palace walls, to make sure they understood compassion, empathy, humanity. She was preparing them for the roles they'd have to play, but more than that, she was just trying to be their mom. And now she's hours away from seeing them again. She just has to get through this night, this dinner, this last evening in Paris. Then she'll fly home, hug her boys, hear all about their adventures at Balmoral, make them laugh, be together. But that's not what happens. Midnight, the Ritz Hotel. Diana and Dodie decide to use a decoy to escape the paparazzi. They slip out the back entrance into a Mercedes driven by Henri Paul. Trevor Rees-Jones, the bodyguard, is in the front passenger seat. Nobody, except for Trevor, is wearing a seatbelt. The car speeds through Paris, the paparazzi give chase. 12:23 a.m., the Mercedes enters the Pont d'Alma tunnel, and in that tunnel, everything ends. Henri Paul dies instantly. Dodie dies on impact. Diana is critically injured. Trevor survives but remembers nothing. And in Balmoral, William and Harry are asleep. They have no idea that their mother is fighting for her life in a Paris hospital. No idea that the last conversation they had, the rushed, distracted phone call where they just wanted to get back to playing, would be the last time they'd ever hear her voice. 4 a.m., Diana is pronounced dead. She's 36 years old. Charles is woken up. He has to tell his sons. He has to walk into their rooms and shatter their world. Your mother is dead. The woman who called you just hours ago. The woman you barely spoke to because you were too busy playing. She's gone. Imagine waking up to that. You're 15 and 12 years old. You're on holiday. You were having fun. And suddenly, someone is telling you your mother is dead. Not sick, not injured, dead. Gone forever. And the last thing you said to her was, "Can I go now?" William and Harry don't speak publicly about that morning, about what it felt like to hear the news, about how they processed it, about the guilt and shock and incomprehension that must have crashed over them. They were children, and in one moment, their childhood ended. For years, they stay silent about the phone call. It's too painful, too private, too heavy. But in 2017, 20 years after Diana's death, they decide to speak. They make a documentary called Diana, Our Mother, Her Life and Legacy. And for the first time, they talk about that last conversation, the one they regretted every day for 2 decades. Prince William speaks first. His voice is measured, controlled, but you can hear the pain underneath. William and I were in a desperate rush to say goodbye. See you later, can I go off? If I'd known now, obviously, what was going to happen, I wouldn't have been so blasé about it and everything else. That phone call sticks in my mind quite heavily. Blasé, that's the word he uses. He was blasé about saying goodbye to his mother because he thought he'd see her tomorrow, because he thought there would be time, because he had no idea that life could change that fast, that completely, that irreversibly. Prince Harry's words are even rawer. I can't really necessarily remember what I said, but all I do remember is probably regretting for the rest of my life how short the phone call was. If I'd known that that was the last time I was going to speak to my mother, the things that I would have said to her, he trails off. Because what do you say? How do you finish that sentence? What would you have said to your mother if you'd known you'd never speak to her again? I love you. I miss you. Thank you for everything. Please don't go. I'm not ready. I need you. Don't leave me. But they didn't say those things. They said, can I go now? And that's what they have to live with. Forever. Think about that weight. You're a child when your mother dies. And for the rest of your life, every August 30th, you remember. You remember that phone call. You remember being too busy to talk. You remember wanting to hang up. You remember not knowing, not understanding, not appreciating. And you can never go back. You can never call her again. You can never have that conversation over. You can never say the things you wish you'd said. William is now 43 years old. He's married with 3 children of his own. He's the Prince of Wales. He's second in line to the throne. He does important work. He serves his country. He honors his mother's legacy. But somewhere inside him, there's still a 15-year-old boy who wishes he'd stayed on the phone longer, who wishes he told his mother how much he loved her, who wishes he knew that goodbye actually meant goodbye. Harry is 41. He stepped back from royal duties. He lives in California with his wife Meghan and their children. He's built a different life, but he carries the same weight, the same regret, the same wish that he could go back and do it differently. Both brothers have spoken about the psychological impact of losing their mother. The trauma, the grief, the anger. William talks about it taking years to even begin processing what happened. Harry talks about shutting down emotionally, not allowing himself to feel, not crying at her funeral because he couldn't accept that she was really gone. And under all of that is the phone call. The last conversation, the moment they can't change. Here's what makes it even more painful. They weren't just Annie children losing their mother. They were princes. Their grief was public. The whole world watched them walk behind Diana's coffin at her funeral. Billions of people saw 2 young boys destroyed by loss, forced to participate in a global spectacle of mourning. They weren't allowed to grieve privately. They weren't allowed to fall apart. They had to be strong, composed, royal. And through all of it, they carried the secret weight of that phone call. The world saw them as tragic figures, the motherless princes, but nobody knew about the guilt they carried, the regret, the what-ifs. That was theirs alone.
It's affected everything in their lives, the way they parent their own children, the way they value time, the way they communicate. William has spoken about making sure he's present with his kids, really present, not distracted, not rushing through conversations, making sure they know they're valued, heard, loved. Harry has talked about the importance of expressing emotions, of not holding back, of telling people how you feel while you still can, because you never know when it will be too late. These are lessons learned from the worst kind of teacher: experience, loss, regret. But here's something else, something that's often overlooked. That phone call, as much as they regret it, was also normal. It was a normal interaction between a mother and her teenage sons. Kids don't appreciate their parents in the moment. They take them for granted. They assume there will always be more time. That's not unique to William and Harry. That's universal. Every one of us has had rushed phone calls with our parents. Every one of us has been distracted, preoccupied, wanting to hang up and get back to whatever we were doing. Every one of us has taken for granted that our parents will always be there, that we can call them tomorrow, that there's no urgency to say everything we feel right now. And for most of us, that's okay, because tomorrow comes, and we do get to call them. And eventually, over time, we learn to appreciate them more, to have deeper conversations, to express our love more fully. But for William and Harry, tomorrow never came. That rushed, distracted phone call was it. The last chance. And they didn't know. How could they? They were children. And yet knowing that doesn't make it easier. Logic doesn't erase guilt. Understanding doesn't heal regret. They know they were just being normal kids. They know they had no way of knowing. They know their mother understood and didn't hold it against them. But none of that makes them wish any less that they could go back, that they could have that call one more time, that they could say everything they didn't say. There's another layer to this story, the relationship between William and Harry themselves. For years after Diana's death, they were united in their grief, brothers bonded by shared trauma. They had each other. They understood what the other was going through in a way nobody else could. They walked through the pain together. But in recent years, their relationship has fractured. Harry's decision to step back from royal duties, the move to California, the interviews where he criticized the royal family, the book he wrote, the Netflix documentary. William and Harry, once so close, are now reportedly estranged. They barely speak. When they do see each other at public events, it's awkward, tense, cold. And you have to wonder, does Harry think about that phone call now? Does he wish he'd appreciated his brother more in that moment? They were together at Balmoral. They shared that last conversation with their mother. They're the only two people in the world who understand exactly what that moment was like. And now they can barely stand to be in the same room. Is this another variation of the same regret? Not appreciating someone while you have them? Taking for granted that there will always be time to fix things later? Assuming that blood is enough to keep you connected. Diana would be heartbroken to see her sons estranged. Everything she did was for them, to protect them, to prepare them, to make sure they supported each other through the unique challenges of royal life. And now they're on opposite sides of the world, not just geographically, but emotionally. And you have to wonder, does Harry think about that phone call now? Does he wish he'd appreciated his brother more in that moment? They were together at Balmoral. They shared that last conversation with their mother. They're the only two people in the world who understand exactly what that moment was like. And now they can barely stand to be in the same room. Is this another variation of the same regret? Not appreciating someone while you have them. Taking for granted that there will always be time to fix things later. Assuming that blood is enough to keep you connected. Diana would be heartbroken to see her sons estranged. Everything she did was for them, to protect them, to prepare them, to make sure they supported each other through the unique challenges of royal life. And now they're on opposite sides of the world, not just geographically, but emotionally. But let's go back to the phone call, because that's what this is really about. The last conversation. The words they didn't say. The time they didn't take. In the documentary, William says the phone call sticks in his mind quite heavily. 20 years later, and it still haunts him. Not just on August 30th, not just on the anniversary of Diana's death, but regularly, frequently. A memory that won't fade, a regret that won't heal. Harry says he'll regret it for the rest of his life. Not might regret,
Not sometimes regret, will regret. Forever. It's a life sentence of guilt, a burden he'll carry until he dies. And here's the cruelest part. They can't even remember exactly what they said. The trauma and time have blurred the details. They know it was rushed. They know they wanted to hang up. They know they were distracted. But the actual words, the specific conversation, it's fuzzy, incomplete, lost. So they're haunted by a phone call they can barely remember, guilty about a conversation they can't fully recall anymore. It's like trying to hold water in your hands. The harder you grip, the more it slips away. But the feeling remains. The regret, the guilt, the wish that it had been different. That doesn't fade. That's crystal clear. That's permanent. Think about this from Diana's perspective for a moment. In her last hours, she called her sons. She heard their voices. They were happy, having fun, living their lives. And she let them go. She didn't keep them on the phone. She didn't burden them with her loneliness or her fears. She was just their mom, checking in, hearing about their day, telling them she loved them.
Would she want them to spend the rest of their lives regretting that call? Would she want them to carry this guilt? Of course not. She'd want them to remember her love, her laughter, her warmth, the fun times, the meaningful conversations, not the last rushed phone call. But that's not how grief works. That's not how guilt works. The last conversation becomes enormous. It takes up space in your mind. It overshadows everything else because it's the last, because you can't fix it, because it's frozen in time, imperfect and incomplete. William and Harry have access to resources most people don't. Therapy, support systems, the ability to honor their mother's legacy through their work. William works on mental health initiatives, homelessness, conservation, issues Diana cared about. Harry has worked with wounded veterans, mental health advocacy, HIV awareness, continuing his mother's mission. In some ways, their work is an apology, an attempt to make up for that last conversation. I'm sorry I rushed you off the phone, Mom, but look what I'm doing in your name. Look how I'm honoring you. Look how I'm trying to be the man you raised me to be. But no amount of charity work erases regret. No amount of good deeds changes the past. They know that, and they do the work anyway, because it's what she would have wanted, because it keeps her alive in some way, because it's all they can do. There's a moment in the documentary where Harry is talking to landmine victims in Bosnia, people Diana met on her last mission before she died, and Harry says to them, "You guys were almost the last people to see my mother. You saw my mother more recently than I did." Think about that statement. His mother died, and he hadn't seen her in weeks. Their last contact was that rushed phone call. Other people, strangers, had more recent, more meaningful interactions with Diana than her own son did. That's what happens when you're the child of divorced parents who both have demanding lives. You get scheduled time, you get phone calls, you don't get enough. And then, time runs out. So what do we take from this? What's the lesson in this heartbreaking story? Maybe it's this: don't rush the phone call. Don't be so busy that you can't be present with the people you love. Don't assume there will always be tomorrow. Don't take for granted that your parents, your siblings, your children will always be there. Say the things you need to say. Express your love. Be present. Listen. Engage. Because you never know when it will be the last time. William and Harry couldn't have known. They were children. They were being normal kids. They're not to blame. But they live with the weight anyway. Because that's what regret does. It doesn't care about logic. It doesn't care about fairness. It just sits on your chest and makes it hard to breathe. 28 years later, two princes are still haunted by a phone call they barely remember, still wishing they could go back, still wanting one more chance to say the things they didn't say. Can I go now? Those words echo across decades.
A question asked innocently by children who didn't understand, who couldn't understand, who were just being kids on a summer holiday. Diana said yes, she let them go, because she loved them, because she wanted them to be happy, because she thought she'd see them tomorrow. But tomorrow never came. And William and Harry have been trying to say goodbye properly ever since. This is the story of the last phone call, the conversation that haunts two princes, the moment they wish they could live over, the words they can never take back, the goodbye they never got to say. William and Harry, the last phone call they never made, the apology they can never deliver, the regrets they'll carry forever. Because some goodbyes last a lifetime, and some phone calls never end.